Welcome to Charter Local Edition. My name is Brad Pomerance in San Luis Obispo County. Today we are joined by Duf Sundheim. He is a candidate for the United States Senate. He is running for that office. The primary will be held in June 2016. I'd like to speak with you about your candidacy. What made you decide to run for the United States Senate?
Well, I spend a lot of time in underserved communities. I'm a mediator and a settlement court judge for the state courts. And I've seen a real combination of anger and anxiety that's not being addressed by the professional political class. And one of the primary people that is running for this race is somebody who is a product of the professional political class. So I think this is the year that people want to have somebody that's authentic, that is going to listen to them, and is going to be focusing on solving problems.
It's interesting you mentioned the professional political class, because when you look at the presidential race, what you've described, I think, is playing out.
Yes.
Whether one appreciates the views of Donald Trump or Bernie Sanders, they are speaking to what you're describing.
Exactly.
And so how does that play?
Well, so what I think how it plays out in California is if you are listening to them and if they feel that you're sensitive to what's going on, they're going to be open to your message. And my message is, look, I've solved problems all my life, whether it's as a mediator. I was a business attorney, so I understand how jobs are created, and I've seen how government has crushed them in terms of political reform. I did the recall of Governor Davis. We did redistricting. We've done pension reform. We've done education reform. I know how to do this. So I can go to Washington, give you a voice, but also I know how to solve problems.
So let's talk about more that political climate you're describing, because I do believe that folks are yearning for what you are advocating. The challenge becomes that California is a bluer state, and you're running as a Republican, and both parties are either blessed or cursed with the national brand.
Yes.
And we think about California, which is now plurality Latino, and Mr. Trump, running as a Republican, has said some things that Latinos have interpreted to be less than kind. Now, he may not be the nominee, but how does a Republican, how does the California Republican Party get ahead of that?
Well, so when I've gone and spoken to the Spanish language media, and they know I'm a Republican, and that's for some of them, that's all they know. They start with their arms crossed, sunglasses on, you know, and you have to convince them. So the question is whether I'm going to be able to get past that. So for example, my wife did not go to college until she was 50.
Fantastic, by the way. Fantastic, by the way.
And then ended up being all conference in tennis at the age of 51.
Come on.
Won the Trefethen Award for the senior with the highest combination of athletic and academic skills, graduated Phi Beta Kappa at 55.
Where'd she go, if I'm asking?
Mills College.
Sure, of course, in Northern California.
Exactly. So when we go to, whether it's a Latino community or any community, we say, look, it's not where you come from, it's where you're headed, right? So that's a message that really resonates in the Latino community.
What's so interesting, I have the good fortune of traveling around the country and interviewing members of state legislatures, federal Congress members, and if you're in a room with a California Democrat or a California Republican, you're interviewing them, sometimes you can't tell the difference, especially on issues like immigration. But yet, it takes us back to this whole idea that how do you as a California Republican distinguish yourself from the brand?
Well, so the one thing is that going throughout the state and meeting with people, but also we're extremely fortunate that we have a lot of surrogates from the Latino community, a lot of women, a lot of people that represent the broad diversity of this state that are going to be out there. And through the social media network, it's not just going to be me getting out there, it's going to be people that represent that diversity that are saying, this is a message, this is somebody that has the degree of authenticity and has the message that we need to have presented.
I want to talk about getting out there, because you are getting out there. I mean, you happen to be in San Luis Obispo today. I thank you for being here. When you're getting out there, what are you hearing? And I'm talking about all Californians of all stripes and shades and whatever it may be.
Well, the great thing is I can give the same presentation in Silicon Valley as I do in East Porterville. And really all I have to do is I give the background about myself and my wife and why we're doing this, that our aspiration is to help other people achieve their aspiration. And then I say, okay, what bothers you most about Washington today?
And what do they say, sir?
Well, so integrity. inability to get things done. They're not listening to us. You know, there are issues that, whether it's immigration reform or our place in the world, there's a combination of that anger and anxiety that I talked about. So after the third question, if they aren't one of the first three people that I ask, they start shouting out answers or standing up or waving their arms. So the degree of frustration is extremely high. And so I don't, you know, if you're that angry and if you're that frustrated, you need somebody to throw you a life raft. And they don't care whether that life raft is red or blue. They just want to make sure that there's somebody there that is listening to their problems and will respond to their problems.
I want to take a position that may seem contrarian, but it really isn't intended.
Yeah.
Is the frustration really valid? I mean, as a general proposition, one could argue the United States is doing pretty well.
Right.
I mean, we're coming out of the recession.
Right.
Look, there are issues, there are problems, but I just wonder if the frustration is manufactured.
Right. I'm not experiencing that. So from my perspective, having gone to Downey, Pomona, other parts of the state, we've suffered an economic earthquake.
Right.
So there are areas where we're seeing the greatest accumulation of wealth in the history of civilization. But in California, there are 8.9 million people living in poverty. There are more people living in poverty in California than there are people in 39 of the 50 states.
So those statistics, I think, are accurate. I mean, there's no question. What's the response? Because I can envision someone saying, absolutely, Mr. Sundheim, but the Republican Party wants to cut taxes for the wealthiest, and how are you going to be part of the solution?
Right. So from my perspective, what we're having is a squeeze on the middle class. And what's causing that squeeze? It's stagnant wages on one side and rising costs on the other. So historically, the paths to the middle class were manufacturing jobs, small business, and the trades.
Right.
Those are being choked off. So you know the fastest growing path to the middle class today?
Is?
A government job. So it's no longer what you know, it's who you know. And if you're a woman or if you're a minority, that's devastating because those doors don't get open to you.
How do you respond to the tax policy question? Because look, you know, we keep hearing, again, it's the National Party that sets the tone.
Right.
Mr. Trump puts out a plan, Mr. Bush puts out a plan.
Right.
And look, I'm not an economist, but the economists say it's going to disproportionately benefit the wealthy and it's not going to help you and me.
Right, exactly right. So I want to be the voice for that hardworking man and woman to go to Washington to say, look, we need to lower the corporate rate, not to benefit the big corporations, because we need to eliminate those deductions. They need to pay their full share. The reason nothing's getting done on taxes is because the people that have the power are benefiting from the system. Yes, the marginal rate's 35, but some years GE doesn't even pay any taxes at all.
We saw that story.
But the small business owner is paying the full 35%.
So I feel as if there is at least bipartisan or a modicum of bipartisan support behind what you just described.
Right.
You know, the deductions, we've got to address that issue, but we've been saying that for years.
Right. Well, exactly.
When is anything going to get done on tax reform?
Well, that's the key issue, right? So that's why I think my experience as a mediator will be helpful, because what I do is I get assigned cases that have been languishing in the courts, sometimes 3 and 4 years. And about 70–80% of the time, I'm able to resolve it in a day. And so how are you able to do that? It starts by listening. It starts by not saying the other side is evil.
Right.
Or, you know, that, look, you have a point of view, I may disagree with you, but
are we getting there? I mean, the Pope talked about that. I thought it was interesting that he tried to talk about civility.
I don't think you need a large number of people to do that, because if you look at what happened when Vandenberg and Truman got together, there were a lot of Republicans that disagreed with Vandenberg's approach to reach out across the aisle and work with Truman on that. So I think if you have 8 or 9 people, if you look at the Supreme Court, it only takes an Anthony Kennedy or somebody like that.
He is Duf Sundheim. He is a candidate for the United States Senate. My name is Pomerance, and this is Charter Local Edition.